Hey, this is Mike from Inputflow, and in this video I'm going to show you all of the new features and updates that we've added to Inputflow version 1.2. So the first and the biggest new feature is the conditional styles, classes, and visibility. This is huge and will enable a bunch of new use cases. So for example, right here, I have this get a quote form. And as you can see, if I click on the next button and go to the next step, the position of these cards changes. And if I go to the next step again, you can see the position changes again. And it changes again and again. So whenever I go to a new step, a different styling is applied to these cards right here. And this makes the form much more immersive than a default form. And obviously, if a form is more immersive, if it's more interesting to fill out, then the conversion rate is going to be higher as well. Another really interesting use case for this conditional styling and visibility is this one right here. So for this form, if I go to the third step, there's this question called what is your gender? And here I can choose between male and female. And if I select male, you can see these shapes here turn blue. And if I select female, then these shapes here turn pink. And if I keep progressing in this multi-step form, then it stays the same based on the selection that I have made. This is really useful because in the past, or in a lot of other multi-step form builders outside of the Webflow ecosystem, so what you would have to do is you would have to create two steps here. One step with the blue shapes and one step with the pink shapes. And this type of duplication obviously leads to unnecessary complexity. And with this conditional styling, you can completely avoid that. Another really important use case for the conditional visibility is the following. So if I enter an age here, let's say I enter the age 30 and complete this step and submit it at the end, what you can see, it says, okay, you are an adult. But if we reload this and fill out, for example, age 12 and complete the form again and submit it, you can see now it displays a different message, you are still a kid. And inside of the Webflow designer, you can see this functionality is based on the conditional visibility as well, because here we have all of the 4 different result messages, all of the possible 4 different result messages. And based on the input, based on some type of condition, one of them is being displayed. And the cool thing is in the past, what you would have to do to build this is you would have to create multiple different result steps inside of the form editor right here. So you would have to have result kid, result adult, and so on and so forth. Only because you have this small variation here, because everything else inside of this step is exactly the same. And now imagine you have 2 or 3 different characteristics or result messages that all depend on some type of condition. Then this multiplies and suddenly you have to create dozens of different steps only to account for a couple of small variations inside of these steps. And that is why this conditional visibility is such a huge improvement, because now for these variations, you can just do them inside of one single step. To access the conditional visibility and styling, you can just click on any element while this Elements Manager here is open. And then on the bottom right, you can see this new icon. If I hover over it, it says Conditional Visibility and Styles. Once you click on it, it opens up the Conditional Visibility and Styles Manager. Here you have a list of all of your different conditional visibility and style rules. So for example, if I click on the shapes right here, you can see right here I have these 2 rules, shapes color, gender selection female, and gender selection male that I showed you a few moments ago. Let's take a look at the structure of this. I click on it, and then I can make changes. So at the top, you can set a name. In this case, I called it shapes color, gender selection female. Then I have to select an attribute which this conditional styles rule should be applied to. So as you can see, this is all attributes based. In this case, I chose the attribute if custom equals shape, but you can choose whatever attribute you want. And then the styling that should be applied, set style property, background color pink, and then the condition gender is female. So we only want to set the background color to pink. if the radio button gender is set to female by the website visitor that fills out the form. And here in this dropdown, you can see the other option. Instead of setting a style property, I can set the visibility. So this is the conditional visibility. And I could also apply a class conditionally. So my recommendation to you is try this out. This can really take your multi-step forms to the next level. And if you have any questions, then just write me a message or send an email to support@inputflow.io. In the coming days and weeks, we'll add tutorial videos and detailed documentation so that you can learn everything that you need to know about this new feature. The next new feature that we've added in Inputflow version 1.2 is support for Textarea and input type hidden elements. So for example, if I click on this step right here and create a validation, now for the validation and also the logic rules, I can select Textareas. So now I have access to Textareas and also hidden input fields. Up until now, this was not possible, but now this is available as well. The next new feature of Inputflow version 1.2 is already visible on the screen. You can now see for all of the input elements, a different icon is being displayed inside of these logic rules, depending on the type of the input element. So in this case, it's a text area. It displays these 2T. But for example, down here in this step, I have a date input and it displays this calendar icon, or for checkboxes, it displays this check icon, or for phone numbers, type phone input elements, it displays this phone icon. You get the idea. And this makes it easier for you to see what exactly is going on. Another new feature in Inputflow version 1.2 is that now you can change the order of validations and calculations. So whenever you have multiple validations or calculations inside of a step, you can hover over them, and now you can see there's this small arrow at the top right. And when you click it, you change the position of that validation. And you can do that for validations, but you can also do it for calculations. So if you have two calculations, you also see this small arrow. You can click on it and change the order of a calculation. And with the calculations, what you can do additionally inside of a calculation, if you have multiple calculation actions, then you can also change the order of the calculation actions inside of the calculation. The next new feature in Inputflow version 1.2 is that you can now delete connections with an icon. So up until now, to delete a connection, what you would have to do is you would double click a connection and then it goes away. This is still possible, but now there's an additional option to do it, which is a little more intuitive. And that is you can click on a connection and then this delete icon shows up. And then if you click the delete icon, the connection also goes away. Next, we've also made some improvement to existing functionalities. So one really popular feature in Inputflow is the auto next step setting. If I open the form settings here, there you can see there's the setting called automatically go to next step. And this is basically whenever a single step contains only one radio group and a selection is made, then the form immediately transitions to the next step without the need for the click on the next button. And that makes it a little easier for the visitor to navigate the form. So for example, if I go to the third step right here, you can see there's no other input element except for this one radio group. And if I make a selection here, it immediately goes to the next step. So I didn't have to click on the next button. In fact, for this step, I could remove this next button entirely. The problem was, so far, there was a little inconvenience that if I make a selection here and go to the next step, but then go back and decide, oh, actually, I want to make the same selection again, then I couldn't do that. So I would make a click here and nothing would happen. So I would have to choose another option, go to the next step, go back, and then choose the original option again. Now this has been fixed, so if I go back and make the same selection again, then the form progresses as expected. We've also made some improvements to the accessibility of this feature. So for example, if I tap to a radio button with my keyboard, then I can make a selection and the auto next step functionality is not triggered. That means a person that accesses a website or a form with their keyboard for accessibility purposes can make a selection here, and only once they've made the selection that they want, they can hit enter and then they go to the next step. And then the last two improvements that we've made is if you click here on the top right on your account, then you can click on Manage Account. And this opens up your personal billing portal. So far, to do this, what you would have to do is click this button and then you would have to enter your email address, get a link, and then only then you could access the billing portal. But now this is accessible with only one click. And here you can change your billing information, your payment details, and you can also download invoices. And then the final improvement that we've made, also a small but very useful feature. Inside of the form settings, we have this option, Send Data to Custom URL. So with this option enabled, you can send your form data directly to Make or Zapier, for example, while making it look like a normal Webflow form submission. So the normal Webflow error message or the normal Webflow success message would still show up, but in the background it would be processed by the Zapier or Make webhook. And now we've also added support for Textareas here, meaning that if you enable this option and send your form data to Make in Zapier, now the text area fields will also be sent along. Okay, these are all of the new features that we've added to Inputflow version 1.2. If you have any questions, then send me an email to support@inputflow.io. I hope you like all of the new changes, and if you have not installed Inputflow yet in your Webflow account, you can go to inputflow.io and click this big button, Install Webflow app. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Mike. See you next time.